Hello, everyone, and welcome to what is sure to be a thrilling finale to this season of Tier 2 in APPF1. We are here in the Netherlands for this final. Four drivers in contention for the Drivers' Championship, and three teams in very close contention for the Constructors as well. And joining me on a unique occasion tonight, it's going to be my PSGL co-commentator and good friend Daka. How are you doing, Daka? Are you looking forward to your first ever APP Tier 2 race?
Oh, certainly, I am buzzing and can't wait to get this one underway. My mouth was watering hearing you list off those championship situations. We have got a lot to look forward to tonight, and what a track to end the season off as we get loaded in finally. It is going to be the Dutch Grand Prix, and that is how we will end this season off. So, all I can say, Ghost, is I cannot wait.
Absolutely, me neither. Especially after last season was it still had great racing throughout, and it was a great season just for individual races. But in terms of the championships, it was a bit of a blowout both ways. So it's great to be back to classic Tier 2 with some brilliant championship battles. And, it's not very often at all that you get three teams in close contention for the Constructors' Championship in league racing, especially in APPF1, going down to the final race. There's just a few points in it between all three teams. It is so close. And of course, the drivers, we've got Enchilada leading by just 2 points from Jackalacco, who just gets out the pits now. And then two-time reigning champion Xtrek is 9 points behind Ench. And then there's JB, the outsider, 16 points behind. He would need a lot of luck to go his way. He would need pretty much everything to go his way today if he wants to win the drivers. But stranger things have happened, haven't they, Daka?
Well, certainly in APP Tier 2, I imagine. But yeah, in terms of JB, yes, mathematically he can still win the championship even if he finishes second and gets the fastest lap, but that would need Earths to move, I imagine, for that to to come to pass. So, but really, that gives him some kind of advantage, you would think, going into this race as well, because it's essentially out of his hands. He's not under any sort of pressure. He's got nothing to lose, so he can go at this race, this final climactic race, with a clear head and just give it all he's got.
Absolutely, and I'm going to ride on board with Lawrence for a lap of Zandvoort as he breaks for turn one. Maybe a little late, wide at the apex, and a little lost to the rear on exit as well. But Lawrence, as he gets used to wheel this season, he's been getting better and better over the course of the season. He heads through the rest of Sector 1. Again, a little wide, but you can take different lines for that corner. You see, of course, the F1 drivers in real life going as wide as possible at that banked turn. And now Lawrence down towards this tricky set of corners. He used to have to brake for this next one. Now take it flat out this season, or this year's game, as now he brakes for the latter stage of Sector 2. Braking just after the 50-meter board for this left-hander, leading onto a straight, loses the rear though as he heads through. He's still going to put DRS on all the way down. A possible overtaking opportunity here in the race, but you'd have to be very brave as Lawrence now heads through 2 corners to go on the circuit. It's been a bit of a scrappy lap from the two-time Tier 2 champion, but he's got one last corner to go, flat out through here. It's extremely bumpy. It's even uncomfortable as a sim racer. Imagine what it's like in the real cockpit as Lawrence goes with a 1 minute 10.8 to start us off, Daka.
And the times are going to come in rapidly. Scott, who had such a strong race last time out in Spa, goes up to the top of the timesheets, 109.4. That's quite an impressive banker lap then as the times continue to come in. Tier and Robsu get into the 1 minute 10 range, as well as Cavalis. But yeah, Scott's time really standing out, and yes, that is undeniably a very strong lap to get things kicked off. But you're going to get regular challenges to that lap though as the session progresses, and more and more drivers tick over the line to get laps finished off. As that's a cockpit racer, I believe, a debutant getting in to fourth position, and then championship contender Enchiladad gets a solid lap time on the board, just bettered by Sumo Gilligan, who also sets a strong lap. And Ace is, of course, last week's race winner, also off to a good start. Alpine looking strong at the moment, so he goes into fourth position. And first blood, you could say, going to Enchilada cars to get teched over then, so it's far from over. Of course, we're not even 5 minutes into the session, into the event, but Scott, highly impressive banker lap. A 109.4 is a very strong lap to get things kicked off, and standing him in good stead to a man that's really on form at the moment.
Absolutely, that's fantastic opening lap from Scott. He's really set down a marker there, looking for another pole position this season after that sensational pole position he got just last week. Alex G, though, he comes through the final sector at the moment. It looks like he's the next one to come across the line. Actually, Triku Bidayak on 2-lap-old soft tyres goes to P4. The Czech driver also been very impressive. A lot of drivers, well, Lawrence asked some questions, like some interview questions to the drivers before this race. And one of the questions was, who do you think is going to be a threat for next season of Tier 2? And a lot of drivers said Triku Bidayak, which just shows the improvement he has made. Alex G up to P9 for his first run. Hello to everyone in chat, by the way. Hello to all the Denko fans as usual. Great to see you all. And Spaled Wrong is a name I haven't seen in quite some time. How are you doing, buddy? It's been quite a while. Great to see you. Yeah, a decent opening few laps of qualifying. Gary's come into the pits. He's not gone for another one like Triku did, but Xtrek, here comes the reigning champion to the line. It's not going to beat Scott, but it is up to P3, and he shows he is going to be right up there today. He's just ahead of Enchilada Dad.
Well, that battle already brewing then, and Xtrek 9 points down in the standings, but has continued to evolve throughout this season and has closed up that gap substantially in the last couple of rounds. So momentum with the Norwegian at the moment, and getting his session off to a strong start. Watch this space. His teammate Denko is also circulating, just heading around turn 3. We'll keep an eye out on the progress of the Mercedes as well. But yes, this is a very mouth-watering situation we have on the whole here in APP Tier 2, just under 7 minutes into the session. Denko flicking his way through that middle sector. Big oversteer moment though, heading at turn 8, and as soon as you get on that curb, that will drag you right off the circuit, and Denko looks like that lap is not going to come to pass for the Mercedes drivers. So that is a circuit baiting. And another interview question that was asked actually was, what do you think of this track? And the general consensus seemed to be everyone loves driving this track on their own, but it's a very difficult track to race on, and not many passing opportunities, which I think emphasises how much this session means. There's so much at stake on the whole tonight, but knowing that and the way the circuit works in terms of racing, every lap is going to be so pressurized here.
Absolutely right, yeah. And, well, I mean, talking of pressure, Jack Alacco down in 14th after his banker lap. He needs to do a lot better than that. Obviously, we saw him have a poor qualifying in Belgium last week, but he came right back up very quickly. It was a very impressive performance from the Scottish driver and Season 10 champ. But, yeah, it's going to be a lot more costly in Zandvoort, I think, if he has a poor quali. So he really needs to deliver now. He's even behind his teammate Lawrence at the moment. But still 10 minutes to go in the session as he heads through Sector 1 for his next attempt. But yeah, going to be very important to get those laps on the board. Especially, you don't really want to be leaving until late, because with the added pressure of a championship finale where you're in the mix for the title, leaving it right until last, unless you're a sort of Lewis Hamilton type who thrives under pressure, not usually really the best idea. So Jacko is going to want to get one on the board here. He's already 2 tenths up in Sector 1. He's coming to the Sector 2 line now, but a huge snap of the rear end there as he heads down the last corner of Sector 2. He's half a second up still, but I think it could have been a lot more.
Could have been much, much more for the Scotsman. We'll see how he navigates this penultimate and final corner, flicking it into the apex, steering a little way clear of that exit curve, though it's such a unsettling curve to ride on now. Riding that banking and heading up to the line, but it is a lap with a lot more potential. It still goes into 7th position, and maybe a sense of encouragement that he did manage to get a decent lap on the board, but the outsider in the championship, JB, goes a little bit better, goes up to P6, so as well moving in there, and of course those times very, very close in that midfield, as you would expect at a track like Zandvoort. But yeah, the nerves clearly kicking in, it seems, with Jacko. He has got at least a solid time on the board, but there's still certainly, I imagine, much more to come. X-Trek and Enchilada Dad, you would have to say, would have to be the more settled, because they've already got strong laps and they're already starting solidly at the moment on that second row, and in a great position ahead of the race as it stands. But still 8 minutes to go and a lot more laps to come.
Absolutely, and well, interestingly, Ench did go across the line for another attempt, but he was just about half a tenth down on his previous best, so he had to stay in P4. There were a few improvements happening. Gary improved up to P11, and good lap from the Sauber driver, a newbie to Tier 2, as Drogon riding on board with at the moment in the Haas. He's going for his next attempt. This is going to be his last race in APP for a while, sadly. But it'll be great to see him back after he comes back. Sumo Gilligan, though, up into pole position. That time from Scott finally beaten. It's a 109.3 from the Ferrari driver. And, well, Enchilada into the pits. No improvement for him. Is Trikubidayak improving? Not in Sector 1. So, yeah, a lot more to come. I think Avenir just crossed the line to improve slightly, but not enough to gain him any positions. Here comes Drogon after his next attempt. His first one, I think, was just another banker, and he goes to P6. Huge lap from Drogon. He'll be very happy with that, as Cockpit Racer, the newbie, goes up to P3. And could he be a bit of a spanner in the works for the championship challengers here?
Oh, that's certainly a possibility, and I will say in other commentaries we have done, debut stars have certainly been a trend. So Cockpit Racer immediately making an impression, that lap putting him right in the mix up to P3 and actually defying the championship contenders. Good improvement too. Trika Badayak improves up to P5, goes in front of Enchilada Dad. So the championship contenders not having it all their own way, but showing just how competitive this tier is, and yeah, certainly a lot to look forward to. We've got 6 minutes to go in the session, that time continuing to tick down, so maybe a bit of a calm before the storm. A lot of drivers just heading out in between runs, so we'll see much more later on, but Sumo still leads the way after that late improvement. Scott hasn't improved since that banker lap, so you'd have to think there's more potential there, and a lot of drivers, I think. We saw Jacko with that mistake earlier on. So difficult to hook up an entire lap round here, so I would say a lot of these drivers had a lot of room for improvement, but the pressure is mounting as we get towards the end of this session.
It really is. Only 5 minutes to go, and well, as I think we're at a bit of a lull in proceedings, unless Robs, who's about to improve, no, he heads into the pits in 15th. Not a good showing for VCarb at the moment in their constructors championship challenge. But Spaled Wrong asking in the chat, what's at stake here? He missed the start of the stream. Well, I'm glad you asked, Spaled Wrong, because there are 4 drivers in contention for the Drivers' Championship in this race. We've got Enchilada leading the championship, Jackalacco just 2 points behind, X-Trek, 2-time reigning champion, just 7 further points behind that, and then JB 16 points off the lead, so he's the outsider for this one. He would need a lot to go his way, but he's still just about in it. And in terms of the constructors as well, also very, very close. We've got Mercedes leading the way, and then VCarb and McLaren just about 10 or so points behind each. So they would need a bit of a stinker from Mercedes, which isn't happening at the moment, actually. Denko's been on a rough run of form recently, but he is all the way up to P7, so he'll be delighted with how this qualifying is going so far. Tier is going to be gutted with that, though. He was some 3/10 up through Sector 2, and then he invalidates at the first corner of Sector 3.
Yeah, just saw that. Took a big bite out of the curb over on the inside. Scott is not finding time out there at the moment on this second run. And it pushes a little bit over the limit around that penultimate corner. And the Alpine goes half spinning round, manages to gather it back up. But that lap he can say bye-bye to. Jacolaco is just behind on the track, then flicking it in to turn number 13. Gets a strong exit off of that. And now he's going to burn as much of his battery as he can up to the line. It's going to be an important lap, but it is not going to be an improvement. He decides that is not enough. Not what he needs, and the Aston Martin elects to go into the pit lane. He's got more than enough time, just under 4 minutes to go in the session, but another lap goes begging for Jacolaco, and at this point it's looking like one shot, one opportunity for the Scotsman.
Absolutely right, yeah, down in P11 he is. He is not going to be wanting to settle for that. He can't really afford to settle for that. Unless we get some carnage. And, well, it is Zandvoort. It is a season finale with so much at stake. You know, whether it's going to be a completely clean race with no safety cars, I don't think anyone would sensibly bet on that. So I'm sure there will be chaos happening at some point in this race, but it's whether it comes to the advantage of anyone having a bit of a stinker up to that point. Kavalis, the Lithuanian driver, he's been ever improving as well in that Williams since he joined us last season. He comes through the final corner. Oh, nearly hits the wall on the exit. I think just underestimating the steering required there. He improves by a tenth, but stays down in P16. And yeah, spelled wrong, asking for, supporting Jacolaco in the chat. I'm sure Jacka will be appreciative of another supporter. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Spale. Couldn't ask for more for a finale. Absolutely. It is wonderful stuff as Enchiladad, championship leader, improving by over a tenth through the middle sector. He comes to the line and goes to P5. It's not quite enough to get himself onto the second row, but it is just enough to beat Triku Badayak, who is not currently improving. So Enchilada, that may well be his last run, Daka.
Yeah, he will. If he's fueled enough, he can recharge and go for another one with older tyres. But, well, to what cost? The grip is not quite going to be there for him. So it's going to be difficult to find any more time out there on the circuit. So we are inside the last 2 minutes here in qualifying. Most drivers, I think Alex G is near the end of the lap, finding quite a lot of time, 4/10 of a second up. The Ferrari driver improves, but actually has a bit of a poor final sector and ends up remaining down there in 17th position for the time being. Most drivers are just about to begin their final runs. Kavalis is coming to the pit lane. I don't think there's going to be enough time to improve off of that, though, so I think that is going to be it for the session for the Williams drivers. So I wonder who's going to be furthest along, who is going to step up to the plate. 1 minute to go in the session, and drivers now coming over the line, getting their final runs kicked off. It's always a thrill qualifying at Zandvoort, but which way is this session going to go?
Yeah, this is hugely exciting towards the end. The championship contenders are all over the place on the grid at the moment as JB comes round to start his final run of the session. Enchilada is going to do this. Going to do the same now. He's going for the same set of tyres. Exactly what you said, Daka. Sumo going again, and Scott as well. But Scott's invalidated. No improvement for Scott. He may have time to get over the line one more time, but it's going to be very, very tight. Who else on a lap? I saw X-Trek, and he does improve to P3, does the double reigning champion, but it's only P3. He's a tenth and a half off of Sumo's time, and he's going to have to stay there. No more time for him to improve, as Enchiladad is half a tenth up in the first sector. He's going to need more than that. I'm going to ride on board with him. Oh, as he goes through the second sector, but gets too much of the curb. That's surely lap over for the championship leader. And is he going to be improving? Yeah, he's half a second down. That's it for Ench. He's going to be 6th at best. Triku Badayak improves to 5th. Meanwhile, as Cockpit Racer goes for his last attempt as well. Sumo coming around the final corner. No improvement for him either. A lot of drivers struggling to improve on these final runs. Denko also not improving. It looks like he's backed off of his run. What about Tier? He is a 10th up in the McLaren. Crucial it could be for the constructors if he can get this lap in. Just 2 corners to go, but a huge snap of the rear as he heads through. Just the double right-hander to go. Gets it right on the curb, but uses all of the track and uses everything he's got in the ERS as well. Down to the line comes Tier. Is it an improvement? No, he lost too much time with that mistake. What about Jacko? Goes to P7 just behind Enchilada Dad. It's absolute cinema with that last run from Jacko. Lawrence doesn't improve. He's got no front wing even, so no wonder as Denko is not going to improve either. I think that is your lot, Taka.
Cockpit Racer coming up to the line in the Red Bull and just marginally down on his previous lap. Other than that, I do think that is it. So Sumo takes away the pole position with a lap surprisingly early in this session. But Sumo Gilligan, always a driver who tends to thrive over one lap, goes to the top of the timesheets by just shy of 1/10 of a second ahead of Scott, who I think later runs fell apart then. That could have been so much more than that, because that was a banker lap, that 109.4. X-Trek, though, the best of the championship contenders, and as you said earlier, these guys are all over the grid. Jacko has managed to move up right behind Enchilada Dad, which is an incredibly exciting prospect ahead of this race, but X-Trek taking the early scalp, and he's critically as well on that run towards turn 1, Tarzan corner. That entire first sector can be very sketchy in battles. He's put himself further out of the melee, so to speak. So Enchilada Dad, Jacko, and JB, they all have far more to do in the race, and we'll see where they go from where they are.
Yeah, and there's also the unknown addition to the mix in Cockpit Racer in the Red Bull on his debut today as a reserve driver. I'm sure he will sign up for next season, but it looks like he's going to be a great driver, a great addition to the division. As Sumo, like you said, takes pole position ahead of Scott, and it's X-Trek Cockpit Racer, Triku, Ench, Jacko, Denko, Drogon, and JB, the rest of the top 10. JB down in 10th. He is going to need even more luck from down there to get that Drivers' Championship. I think he's going to be more thinking of the constructors at this point, but even that might be tricky with Robsu further down too. There's clouds in the sky, Daka, but it is dry to start off the race.
To start off with, we'll keep that in mind, and I imagine keep a close eye on those clouds and see how they evolve over the course of the race. Of course, the Netherlands, another track where changeable conditions can occur. Oh, imagine the drama if that were to come into play in this all-important final race. So we'll keep an eye out, but we'll look forward to the race. 36 laps of Zandvoort are in front of us, a track that offers a challenge like no other, I believe, and it has to be, especially with so much on the line, for all these drivers, essentially error-free. This track bites so hard when you make a mistake, so these drivers are going to have to be at their best.
Here we go then, 3, 4, 5, red lights. And we're underway for the Tier 2 season finale of Season 14. It's a great start from Sumo from pole position. Enchilada making up a position 2, but Scott down the inside into turn 1. Can he get it done on the exit? No. Sumo gets the better grip and gets off into P1 as Enchilada has made up that position. He's up to P5, a crucial move for the championship leader. Jackalacko trying to follow him through though around the outside of the Haas. He's onto the grass. It's Jacko as he tries to make this move. He knows how crucial this could be and he gets it done. Brilliant stuff from Jacko, but overall a clean start for this season finale. Gary and Robsu having a tussle further back, but it's Sumo who leads from Scott from X-Trek. They are as they were for the top 4, and Enchilada Dad and Jacko crucially getting past the Haas of Triku, and Jacko very wide into that corner. In fact, a little bit laggy from the Scotsman by the look of it, losing a bit of the rear too on the exit, and Triku Badayak might have a shot here down the inside of the Aston Martin, but sensibly yields, doesn't want to take out the man in P2 in the championship in the season finale.
Oh, that would be a disaster, but there's disaster further back. Alex G getting caught up. Round goes Drogon in the Haas, trying to recover it, but is already cut adrift from the rest of the pack. So disaster for Drogon on this opening lap as we head on to lap 2 for the leaders. Sumo leads from Scott from X-Trek, setting in behind. Strategy-wise, a couple of cars are going out of sequence as Triku tries to look round the outside. Denko as well attacking in that Mercedes. Mediums for these guys in that upper midfield, and Jacko on the mediums unable to quite live with the pace at the moment of the top 5 on the softs, and that separation already kicking in as a Tier sweeps past Denko and makes what could be a very important move for the McLaren. He needs to move up early on those soft tyres, but yeah, that difference in strategy, some cars going off of that strategy means that Jacko Lacko is going to be under pressure in these early laps. Tier goes right off the road at turn 8, and the McLaren off into the gravel has damage too. Didn't catch the start of that goes, but Tier, I said it was so crucial to make up places early on, but he has had a very unfortunate off and drops right down the field.
Yeah, I think that damage came from earlier, Dako, because Rick saw it on his car earlier in the stream as Jacko's in the wall!
Oh!
Jackalacko! He's made a mistake maybe on the exit of the left-hander at the start of Sector 3. It's an absolute disaster for the man in P2 in the championship, but Scott takes the lead further up. Sumo round the outside, but Extract trying to make a move as well. Lots tyres with Sumo on the inside of turn 3. Surely not, as they go side by side through 4 as well. Sumo trying to get the grip, but Extract's got the outside line. He gets the grip, and he gets ahead. Wonderful move from the Norwegian as he looks to try and take this championship away from Enchilada, but Ench is doing enough at the moment. According like this, he would be champion, but Jackalacko into the pits for hard tyres and a new front wing. What an absolute disaster in the season finale as Extract trying to make more moves at the front, looking to the outside of Scott as they head around the back DRS zone, but Extract is just going to sit behind for now. But oh goodness me, heartbreak for Jacko, but it's far from over.
It is far from over, anything can happen, but I tell you what, Extract, you are a brave man sending some of these moves. He's got to be wary, of course, battling it out with Sumo, having that little look at Scott heading in to turn number 11. He's going to get that DRS down the straight, though. He's going to pull alongside to the inside of Tarzan corner at turn 1, and Extract takes the lead away from Scott, slipping into the league as a defending champion, and I believe that would put him mathematically in front in the championship as it stands, but there is so long to go in this race. He stretches clear though in the first sector. If he can get away early on, that could change the complexion of this race entirely, but Extract has swept up in front. We see that race pace already coming into play. He leads now from Scott P2. Extract, again, as it stands right now, he would claim the championship, but maybe it's too early to speak about that. We've got over 30 laps to go, but one thing is for sure, this is a man on a mission, on the move, and showing lightning pace around there, already putting pressure on the cars behind.
Absolutely, yeah, he seems absolutely on point in this race. He's 7/10 ahead of Scott already, and it looks like that gap is going to grow over the course of these laps if he keeps that pace up. But yeah, Enchilada, with Jacko that far down, all the McLaren driver needs to do is finish on the podium to guarantee the title if Extract wins the race. But really it's P4 that he needs, because Extract would need first and the fastest lap to beat him if Ench finished P4. And I imagine that another driver has... Oh, there's been a mistake from Extract on the exit of turn 1. He's lost 2 positions, Daka. Did you catch what happened?
I didn't catch the start of it, but he looks to be lagging all over the shop, so I wonder what was the nature of that. I really do dearly hope that he's still fine to continue. I'll keep an eye out on that Mercedes, but yeah, I was looking further down the field as that happened. But Extract, he seems to be all fine, but yeah, those 2 positions disappearing in the blink of an eye after he worked so hard to earn them, so don't know the nature of that. But the Mercedes driver down into 3rd place. Scott retakes that position of the lead. Ench moves back into provisional championship position as it stands, but yeah, Extract, not sure of the nature of that, bit of a blow. Everything does seem to still be in order, and he's certainly going to be charging because he seems to have tremendous speed as it stands. But one thing is for sure, with Trico Badayak in 6th place now on the medium tyres, and of course offs earlier on for Jacko Lacko, means that gap has opened up. So as a Sumo going down the main straight is going to take the lead away from Scott. Extract may try and follow through. Ench is charging to Cockpit Racer, can't find anything. They swap places further back. JB is on the move. He's made up place after place in the last couple of laps, but for him to rescue his championship, a big bridging job needed. He's 2.4 seconds behind. That top 5 made that separation in the first couple of laps, and even for JB in the form he's in, that is going to be one tough nut to crack, one tough gap to close. Can he pull that one off? We shall see. Now Sumo leading the way, but yeah, the nature of the strategy is allow these 5 guys to scamper off up the road.
Yeah, what a huge stint it's been for JB. It was a disappointing qualifying, and then he was caught up in that incident towards the back as well. And he's somehow back up into P6 out of nowhere. So fantastic job so far from JB, as now Sumo's taken the place of Xtrek, trying to gap Scott. Looks like Scott has the weakest race pace of the 3 by the looks of things, but closing back up with that DRS in the back straight once more. But yeah, Enchilada Dad will be happy to just be a part of this train at the moment. He doesn't want to make any rash or reckless moves. Even if Hextrek does retake the lead of this race, he'll be perfectly happy just sitting there for now and waiting for better opportunities later on, as Scott has a little look in the inside then the outside of Sumo. Doesn't make a move though, and JB still about 2.5 seconds behind. Of course, lost some time to the DRS there, but he does look quick in that V-carb. He's trying to gap Triku on those mediums at the moment. But yeah, we got some insider info from the chat as well, Daka. Rick saying that Jacko was saying he had just had no grip on those mediums that he started the race on, and spun on the exit. So disaster for Jack, but he needs a safety car to get himself back into this, and that is far from unlikely in this race, as Robsu making a move on Denko, who looks like he's had an off in that Mercedes.
Denko dropping down into position number 11 and struggling on the medium tyres. This is when that crossover in pace may be expected to happen, as Hextrek gets very close to Scott. He's certainly been a man on the move and showing tremendous speed out there on the track at the moment. Can he carve out an opportunity? JB's pace looks incredibly strong behind, but how much can you do against a DRS train? Well, that remains to be seen. But Hextrek certainly looks to counter here against Scott. He's burning off a lot of battery to get alongside the Alpine. Scott now responding. They both charge up to the back of Sumo, and now it's Scott going from defence to attack to the inside of the Ferrari, and they run side by side through turn 1, but Sumo hangs it out. Xtrek trying to follow through behind Sumo, squeezing into that gap. Elects wisely, I think, to back out of it and remains in 3rd position. So in the end, no change in that leading battle. And Cockpit Racer, remember, the wild card in this battle, you could say, having a little look as well. He's got a lot of battery to use as well in that Red Bull, so certainly looking aggressive. Xtrek, he seems to be having looks in very unorthodox places of the track. They aren't coming to mucks, but I think he's frustrated being in 3rd place because he seems to have the most pace out of everyone in this train at the moment, unable to use it, and as it stands, he needs to win.
Yeah, Cockpit Racer looking very impressive on debut. I hope he does sign up for next season. That would be a great addition. But yeah, he's been patient. He's just been sticking in DRS. He hasn't been making any silly moves. He knows there's a championship on the line, despite not knowing, you know, the whole history of this season. So, you know, he's being a little conservative, and rightly so, as here comes Xtrek again looking to the inside, but he's run out of ERS, Decker, and Scott now going on the attack on Sumo again, round the outside of turn 1. Sumo just happy to let him by for now, but goes back on the inside. Maybe he's going to come back at him. He's going to do what Xtrek did to him a few laps ago. Round the outside he goes, perhaps for turn 5. He can't quite get it done, and they stay in order. Or Scott's back, or Scott, a poor exit though, and Sumo's still side by side with him. This is fantastic stuff from the top 2. Sumo on the inside for the fast right-hander, but he finally yields, and Scott leads the race again. But goodness me, that could have gone horribly, horribly wrong. Fantastic racing.
Fantastic racing, but my word, it's only lap 9, fellas. That was absolutely insane. Sumo just did not want to yield that one away, even when he looked beaten down there at turn 1. So he slips down into 2nd place. Scott again turning defence into attack. Xtrek, as you said on the last lap, just running out of battery, trying to attack early in the straight, but ending up... Oh, as round goes Cockpit Racer into the wall of the Red Bull and out of the race. Cockpit Racer stacking it out of turn 12. A full safety car immediately comes out. Surely there's going to be pit stops amongst the race leaders, and indeed to the pit lane they will go. Cockpit Racer, after a brilliant opening to the race, has to bow out.
Whoa, Xtrek
there.
Xtrek going for a pit lane overtake on Sumo. It looks like he's got it done, Daka. I think he has it. Let's see as Sumo comes out the pits. Yeah, it's Xtrek ahead. In fact, Sumo even behind Triku. I think he replaced his front wing, and he's lost a ton of positions in that Ferrari. He's down to P4. Oh no, it was all just lag. It was all just lag. Okay, but he is behind Enchilada Dad though, so that is big news. Ench up to P3. That's where he needs to be. If he finishes on the podium, there's nothing Extrek can do to him. But of course, this also brings Jackalacko back into the race. He may be at the back, but we know what he is capable of. We know what he can do. He's into the pits, presumably for the mediums from this point on. And the tyre difference is very interesting, Daka. We've got X-Trek on the mediums, but Enchilada and Scott on the hards, but specifically Enchilada. It's those main two championship protagonists right now on different tyres under this safety car, so this is going to be fascinating strategically. And then there's JB, the wild card in the background. He was showing brilliant race pace up until the safety car, and he's up into the top 5. He still needs it all to go wrong for the cars in front. He needs Enchilada to finish lower than 12th, and he needs Jackalacko to finish lower than 10th, and he needs Extrek to finish lower than 3rd, and he needs to win the race. So he's definitely an outsider, but yeah, he will definitely be believing just a little bit. He'll hold a little bit of hope that it all might go wrong for all the other contenders, but he is going to be more thinking about the constructors, I think. And VCarb have got themselves in a decent position, but at the moment they would still be losing points to Mercedes, as indeed would McLaren. So as it stands, Mercedes would be constructors champions too.
I'm very intrigued with this split strategy. Now, we were a couple of laps away from the usual pit window onto the medium tyres to go to the end of the race. So I'm not surprised that we have a bit of indecision among the drivers. It's hard to say which tyre is going to be the better one over the entire rest of the race distance, but the mediums, I can confidently say, should go to the end, and probably go to the end comfortably. It's just about competitiveness in those last couple of laps. That is going to be the key. And yeah, the two you could say main protagonists in the way the race has unfolded up to this point, going opposite ways, certainly lends itself to a very, very eye-opening next couple of laps, especially as, of course, the hard tyres are going to be a lot more difficult to bring in. They will, of course, be the stronger tyre in the closing laps. It's just a question of whether it will be enough. So Scott leads on hards, X-Trek on mediums, and you've got to think, if X-Trek is able to overhaul Scott off this restart, he looked to be putting Scott under pressure to stay in DRS when he was leading earlier. So if he has that tyre advantage in these early laps, X-Trek, I think, may have an opportunity to really stamp his authority on this race when the safety car does now come in at the end of this lap.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He could very easily build a huge gap to the cars behind if he can clear Scott quickly. Because, of course, Ench is going to hold up Sumo and JB for as long as he can. But, yeah, those hard tyres are going to be tricky. It's been a long time since I raced on this track, on this game. I think it was something like October. So I don't really know what the tyre situation is going to be. There's a lot of cars going side by side further back. Careful, everyone. Don't get yourselves some penalties that we're going to have to deal with. But Scott through the final corner is still weaving along. X-Trek just waiting to see when the Alpine driver's going to punch it. He knows he'll have better tyres. And Scott still weaving all the way down to the line. He's finally gone for it. He's caught X-Trek napping a little bit, but Enchilada not close enough to make an opportunity of it. JB looking to the inside of Sumo, perhaps as aces on the inside of Triku up to P6. Great little move from the Alpine driver, and Triku straight into the wall. I think is that lag? No, he's just gone. Has his brakes failed? And maybe a problem with his wheel. Oh, that's such a shame for Triku Bidayak. Such an undeserved way for his race to end. We've got another safety car, Daka, as JB gets past Sumo. Is there damage to the Ferrari? I'm not sure at this stage. I can't quite see from the camera angle that the game is giving me. I don't think so, but he was ghosted. No damage, at least visually. So Triku straight into the wall. That's a very weird one. I assume it's a technical issue for him, but we do have another safety car, and I don't think it's going to change much. I don't really think anyone's going to come in here. Maybe the hard tyre runners at the back.
Yeah, I imagine so, because now we are right into that pit window for the medium tyres to the end of the race. But those guys with track possession certainly won't be willing to give it up. But yeah, with Triku, I agree with you. It did look like an equipment failure of some sorts because the car very bizarrely just went careering off into the wall. Just going into that first corner as if he didn't even brake for the corner. So I would imagine that's the most likely outcome, but we'll see what Triku himself has to say about that in the end. But as you'd expect, no real pit stops at the front of the field at the very least, so that's going to be relatively reset with Scott leading the way. Extract was very close himself to actually pulling off through that first sector as the field will now be picked up by these safety cars. So we'll get back to it very, very soon. But yeah, kind of just a bit of a breather for the drivers, but doesn't change the race or championship situation all that much. In fact, I don't think a single car went into the pits on that last lap. So essentially another restart with just one less car in the race and a couple less laps on the board is now in front of us.
Yeah, I was surprised it brought out another safety car, to be honest. Usually it waits if a safety car's just come out and gone in, but not this time. And Avenir getting a 10-second penalty for a collision with Jacko. I'm not quite sure how he's managed that, but that's a shame for him. But yeah, Scott's going to have to do it all over again. But all this helps out the medium runners, this other safety car as well. So it's not completely meaningless. It gives the mediums a little bit more life in those tyres and probably makes them the better tyre to be on. I think Ench is probably regretting his choice by now to go onto the hards. But Tier also picking up a 10-second penalty. That's the type of one that's going to be removed in stewards, yes. I imagine, unless he has to pit at some point and serve it then. But there is, I'm sure if Tier is towards the back and there's any potential for Extract to get the fastest lap, Tier will pit to steal it. Because Enchiladadad cannot afford him to get it as Extract has left the session.
Oh no!
What has happened to the Norwegian? Can we get him back in? I hope so.
Well, I certainly hope so indeed, because I'll see. I don't think I'm friends with him, but I'll try at the very least to see what I can do. Yeah, Extract. Oh, that would be so gutting if he ended up not being able to get back in. But yeah, I'll see if I can do anything. Hopefully, he does have another invite and he can get back in. But yeah, that would be such a massive shame if it were to end that way. So hopefully, he can get back in any case.
Yeah, agreed. Oh, goodness me. I mean, more twists and turns for this championship. We saw in Bahrain 8 weeks ago, Enchiladadad having major connection issues in that race, where he just disconnected entirely from the race and the game just DNF'd him. I mean, Extraek, at least the game hasn't DNF'd him, so if he does manage to get back in, he will be able to take back control of the car. But yeah, I do agree. What an anticlimax it would be if he is not able to get back in this session. So here's hoping. Avenir's come into the pits meanwhile, as has Tier. They've both gone for fresh tyres. Tier's gone for the hards, interestingly, at this stage of the race. But I don't know if the safety car's going to come in. It might be Avenir might join in just in time for it to come in. Yes, Triku in the Discord saying that suddenly his brake just didn't work. So yeah, we were absolutely right. It was a hardware issue on his front, sadly. I have sent you an invite, Extract. I see you in chat. I've sent you one, but I think it's on friends only. It should be. Hang on, we've got a bit of a lull in proceedings. What are the options? It is on friends only. You should be able to join through JB in theory, if you just try and join his race, or Denko, or anyone who you know in the race. You should be able to join through them. So give that a try. But yeah, I really hope you can make it back in.
Yeah, for a certainty, but yeah, he should, I imagine, be able to, but hopefully if he does get back in, he's able to take control of this car, because the safety car is almost certainly going to be coming in at the end of this lap. So we'll, of course, there he is. X-Track is now back in the session. He will have a bit of a race. Hopefully, of course, there's no DNF bug. And he can just get back control of that car just before we get back to green flag racing. And at the very least, it could be, if anything, potentially just a very well-timed disconnection if he can take back control of the car. But Scott at the front will eventually get to set the pace. He managed that last restart exceptionally well, so we'll see if he can do it again. Safety car in this lap.
Indeed, yeah, another chance for Scott to do this as, well, X-Trek is back in the session, but he's somehow taken the lead of the race. Bit of controversy there. I'm not quite sure what's happening with that Mercedes. He is slowing back down now, but yeah, we'll have to see. I'm sure that's just a bug, but Scott's going to try and overtake him. I don't know if he's going to be able to. Yeah, I think the game's telling him to let him back through, so, well... that's certainly a bit of controversy we didn't need into this championship finale, but it turns out X-Track is going to be leading the way down towards turn 1. He's a sporting driver. I'm sure he'll let Scott back through. Yeah, that's exactly what he's going to do. Huge credit to X-Track for doing that. Did not have to do that at all, but Enchilada is going to try and take advantage around the outside. He can't quite do it though, and it is as you were after all of that through the first sector, thank goodness.
Thank goodness indeed. That was a wonderful gesture from X-Track. He does. Oh, he gets a bit of a snap on ahead of turn 3, of course, having to get back into the swing of things. I imagine his main's going to be racing right now. Cavalis and Aces swapping places down there. A couple of the hard runners too. Cavalis has really been on a charge in this race, up 11 positions from the start. So brilliant going for the Williams driver. We'll see if he's able to keep down. Sumo makes an error down there at turn 8, and he may cede the position to the inside of Cavalis, who doesn't quite have the apex speed to see that one through. Gary as well looking to try and advance towards Aces, as Jacko at the back of the field has had another off. This one not quite as bad, but he just cannot seem to handle that car as X-Track round the outside of Scott at the chicane. What a move from X-Track. He snatches away the race lead, and now he can get away to try and extend it. My goodness, X-Track now on the charge. We'll see though if Edge can potentially follow through. Watch for JB though. He's got the soft tyres, he's got the speed. Can he take advantage? He's already picked off Sumo on this lap. He's ducking out of the slipstream, trying to make his presence felt, but at the moment they will all tuck in line. So X-Track now leads the way, and on these hard tyres there's a couple of positions as well, swapping down there in the field. Lawrence trying to get past Gary. Denko and Tier side by side through turn 2, and Tier nearly going off into the wall, managing to gather back that McLaren in P13. So it's still not calmed down further down in the order as they head up into the middle sector. But look at X-Track speed. This is what I talked about earlier. That medium tyre pace is stretching Scott to his limits here. The gap 9/10 of a second. The detection point is just at the entry here to turn 10, and Scott is not going to have it. So X-Track has done exactly what he needed to do. Pulled right out in front, got the move done early. A brilliant move it was, and now he's in command of this race with no one now able to follow him.
Yeah, great move from Gary further back as well on Aces, as Tier and Denko side by side again. Constructors Championship challengers battling, and Denko into the gravel as Tier trying to make a move on Alex as well, but he has to back out of that one, too far behind. But Tier and Denko really getting their elbows out here further down the grid for those crucial points in the Constructors, as Enchilada looking for a move perhaps on the inside of Scott, backs out of it. Could be vulnerable to JB though, who runs all the way around the outside of turn 1, but he's not quite there. And well, X-Track now is going to extend that gap. Lawrence all the way to the back. It's a disaster for Aston Martin today. There is damage to Jacko's car as well, as he does have a front end plate missing. So it has not been a season finale to forget for Jack Alacco, unfortunately, and it's not the first time this has happened to him in a season finale where he was challenging for a title, unfortunately. Yeah, X-Track now nearly 2 seconds ahead. He is running away with this race at this point, but there's still a long way to go. We're only halfway through this race. It feels like we've had enough events for 2 races today, but there's still another 18 and a half laps left to go, and JB is really piling the pressure on the championship leader, Enchilada Dad. He knows that he can win this championship from P4 as long as X-Track doesn't get the fastest lap. It's another off for Lawrence further back, but he will not be wanting to give up that position. I'm sure he'll know the points. I'm sure he'll know what he needs to do in this scenario. And now JB using the ERS, Enchilada using it too, though. On the inside of Scott, he goes for turn 1, and it looks like the Irishman is going to get himself into P2 as JB looks to the inside. A late lunge from the VCARB driver. Sumo has to yield as well further back, and this has brought Gary into the battle out of nowhere. The Kick Sauber driver, who had his first Tier 2 race last week.
Oh, Ace is in the wall!
The front pack, and Ace is in the wall, and we've got another safety car in this race. That is the third, and we're only just halfway through. Extract lead is going to get wiped out, but again, it's good news for the medium runners because they can nurse those tyres even more. But Enchiladad in a fantastic position now. He really needed to get that move done on Scott, and it's good timing for him because Scott... well, he'll be hoping Scott will be able to hold up the drivers behind and allow Enchilada to perhaps build a gap. All he needs is P4, assuming Extract doesn't get fastest lap. I don't think he will because, you know, unless we get a late safety car, there's always Tier to pit and take it back off him. So, yeah, Enchiladad in a fantastic position at the moment, but Extract... you can't say he's not doing everything he can to whittle down that 9-point gap.
We'll see if he can continue that progress then as further down the field. We'll see if there's any pit stops for drivers. Yeah, as you said, though, very rightly, as Sumo comes in, because he does have damage, I believe, on that Ferrari, and that's why you saw him struggling, actually, to live with the leaders behind as well. And as Adenko picks up a penalty, that could be very crucial when we tot up the standings for the Constructors' Championship at the end of the day. And if there isn't another safety car, that could be very, very costly. These guys all coming in, though, for a set of medium tyres, and that will certainly be the tyre to be on further down the line. So we'll see if Sumo and Co can work their way back in. But as for the drivers that have elected to go for the hard tyres earlier, as you've said very rightly, these safety cars are chipping away at that theoretical advantage in the last couple of laps. In fact, the mediums now should be more than capable of being very competitive all the way up to the checkered flag. So for Extract, well, he was able to gap Scott. We'll see if he's able to gap Ench, and if Ench is able to hang on to Extract in these opening laps, then, well, that will certainly alleviate some of the pressure, because if he does find himself separated, he will have a very angry pack of drivers hot on his heels, and he does not want to be under that sort of pressure. As you said, of course, he is really looking at, in theory, to absolutely make sure he's the champion, to come away with that third position on the road. But yeah, all that pressure behind could be very, very interesting to put up with. So I think that Extract and Enchilada, you could say the two leading faces in this championship fight at the moment. I think these next couple of laps after the restart are going to say a lot.
They absolutely are, yeah. And yeah, Enchilada, I don't think he's going to be too concerned with keeping up with Extract. Obviously, he'd prefer to, but he will have seen the pace that Extract's got, and he will know that he'll have to put in one heck of a shift to keep up with him. So I think he's going to be more interested in keeping Scott behind, or even better, gapping at the Alpine driver, who's looked, you know, he's had his moments of being fast. He qualified on pole, of course, but his race pace has been very sort of up and down this race, I think. He's had periods where he's been keeping up and being pretty quick, and then he's had other periods where he's been clearly the weaker of the drivers around him for that race pace. So yeah, Enchilada, he's got so much running through his mind right now. He must have looking for his first ever Tier 2 title, but remember, that could come into play as well. Ench never winning a Tier 2 title before, coming second in the Constructors' Championship with Tier for the last 2 seasons too. So, you know, he's going to have that pressure in his head. Extract has done this before, though, 2 seasons ago, when he needed to win the race and he needed some bad luck for his competitors. It happened, and it was these two back then as well. It was Extract winning the race and Enchilada missing out on track by just 0.3 of a second for winning the championship. It didn't matter in the end. He got a penalty from the stewards afterwards, but you know, they've both done this before, but Extract has won it before, and that could be huge in terms of the mentality of the two drivers. But yeah, as you pointed out as well, Daka, the constructors, huge news. Denko did pit to get rid of that 10-second penalty, so he doesn't have it anymore, but it's big news for the constructors because look at the McLarens and the V-Carbs. 2 and 7 for the Papaya outfit and 4 and 6 for the junior Red Bull team. So both of them doing very well here, and we'll have to calculate points as the race goes on, but we're about to get underway again.
Here we go then, as Extrek puts pedal to metal and does gap Enchiladad immediately off that start. Robsu and Gary swapping places then, and I think Robsu's having to left down that straight. He does have pressure from Tier as well around the outside, but the V-Carb still sticking in there. Gary though holds it round, and we saw the speed he had in those previous laps. So the Keck Sauber as a driver to watch those. Robsu gets very, very close, heading into turn 3, gets a bit of a snap of oversteer on the exit as JB and Scott swap places then. Was there a moment for Scott out of turn 3 as Drogon is round at the back of the field, but yeah, JB up into 3rd position. It's 3 championship protagonists now on that net podium, and JB can try and throw a spanner in the works here if he can. He's 8 tenths back from Enchiladad, who's responding fairly well, it must be said, to Extrek, still staying with him for the moment, but doesn't get the best line heading through turn number 10. So we are coming towards the final third of the race, with Extrek leading the way, immediately beginning to apply that pressure. It looks as though there's going to be nothing Enchiladad nor the rest of the field can do to live with him at the moment, or can he? We shall see further down the line. But yeah, JB moving up, and Scott seems to be really struggling on that restart. Can't get those hard tyres working. There doesn't seem to be any visible damage on the Alpine. Is further back. Robsu and Gary run parallel again down the straight. Gary's going to see another one of those moves off as behind. Sumo is attacking. Cavalis goes to the inside of turn 1 and sees that move through, and of course the man on fresh tyres in the Ferrari, and we know the speed he has, can try and move his way up. So Sumo moving up. There's all sorts of squabbling down the field as well as Alex G and Avenir. I will try and hand over to you, Ghost, but the action has been relentless out there on the track. Lawrence and Alex G going side by side up the hill towards turn 7, and Alex is going to yield that one, or is he? He's finally going to settle down in that fight. So Extrek does still lead the way, 1.4 from Enchiladad, and JB, predictably, on those medium tyres, is the man on the move, and I think Enchiladad will actually probably be looking to cede that position and ride the train with.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kevin O'Reilly in the chat, lovely to see you, Kevin, makes it a full house in terms of supporters for all 4 championship contenders in the chat, which is fantastic to see. But yeah, Denko fans distraught at him running towards the back. But yeah, Extrek has built up a big gap to Ench, and JB is right behind that McLaren driver. JB doing everything he can. He pulls to the inside. Ench not interested in fighting that. He just wants to stay in that 3rd place. As look, further back, we've got nearly 3 wide into turn 1. Robsu on the inside of Gary, trying to make that move. They bang wheels as they go through the corner. Gary holding them up very nicely. Enchilada, we happy to see us contact Robsu on the inside of turn 3. Just couldn't quite get himself into the right position, and well, he's only down to P7. It's not too much damage to the V-Carb driver, but in terms of the constructors, it could be oh so costly, as Tier is trying to find his way past Scott as well. That Alpine driver just doesn't seem to have any pace on these hards after the restart. Sumo as well, fighting his way back through, as is Jackalacco. He's up to P11 now, Daka, but he's going to need to do a lot better than that, of course. 2 points behind Enchilada in the championship coming into this. He has to finish ahead of the McLaren. At the moment, that looks like a long, long way to go, as Enchilada is building a 2.5 second gap to the cars behind. All he needs to do is finish on the podium, no matter what Extrek does, and that is exactly what he's doing right now, with just 12.5 laps left to go.
Very content to follow the very fast V-Carb of JB around the lap at the moment, maybe looking to reclaim that possession down the main straight, or is he? Let's see. He's going to pull towards the inside, but showing no interest in taking that 2nd position away. So Enchiladad, I imagine, very, very content with the current race situation. Further back, Sumo looking for another move, this time on Robsu. Robsu ghosted through him on the last lap, so Sumo wouldn't have been happy with that, and looking to try and reclaim that 7th position, but nothing doing through there, and those fresh mediums not giving him enough at the moment to carve his way through the orders. Avenir's had enough, down out of turn 3, recovering in that kick Sauber, but big damage to that end plate, and it doesn't look like the kick Sauber is going to be in a position to get any major result. Of course, he still may get points, of course, points down to 15th So if there's any misfortune for the drivers in front, that can be a
Oh,
possibility.
contact between Robsu and Sumo. Sorry to interrupt you, Daka, as Robsu, well, he went for a move on the inside of Tier. He went for a dive bomb, and Sumo's coming back at him for the inside of the next corner. Sumo doesn't care about the Constructors' Championship. He wants those positions back as they go side by side again down towards the last two corners, and Sumo makes up the position. He's up to P7. Robsu paying for that failed dive bomb attempt on Tier, and Sumo getting him, but there was contact between them as they headed towards the corner, so Robsu won't be particularly happy, and no DRS for Sumo is going to mean that Robsu will just retake that position easy as you like anyway. Aces to the inside as well as he tries to get past the Ferrari, but he has to stay behind as Jacko making up another position, this time on the Lithuanian driver in the Williams. Cavalis unable to do anything on those 16-lap-old hard tyres to Jacko's 8-lap-old mediums. He is charging through the field, but he is going to need a mistake from Enchilada, you have to think, and he's also going to need to get further up the field because if Extract wins this race, which is looking like he's going to, Jacko needs at least fourth place. No, he needs at least second place rather to win this championship. So, yeah, a lot on the line for Jacko, but at the moment it's definitely heavily against him.
He's going to need to continue carving through that order, but is it too little too late for the Aston Martin driver? He's charging towards Aces, but Aces is also on those fresher medium tyres, so it's not going to be an easy move to make, especially when a driver is hard charging as Aces. Up at the front as Sumo and Robsu still going at it. Sumo sneaks to the inside in the backing, and Robsu immediately tries to counter, going to the inside towards turn 1. On that tight line though, Sumo will try and hold it out. Robsu pinched to the apex, is still gonna fight for traction on the exit. It still looks like the Ferrari, they back wheels again, but Robsu eventually yields on the inside of turn 2, and Sumo does complete that manoeuvre. He's gonna need a big lap though to get his way up towards the train in front, led by Gary in that 4th place, dragging 2 hard runners as a Tier looks left and right against Scott, whose race pace just hasn't seemed to have lived up to that qualifying potential that he showed earlier. Sumo should be able to just claw his way into DRS, and he is doing so, so that's going to become a very lengthy train for 4th position, but at the moment they are not bothering the podium runners at all. Extric, JB, Enchiladad run in tandem at the moment, and Enchiladad still very content to just follow JB home, because as it stands, that's where he needs to be, and you'd have to say for a man managing a championship lead, the Irishman is doing everything right as it stands, and looks in possession, but there's still a long way to go.
There certainly is. Fastest lap right now belongs to Cockpit Racer, so, at the moment, I don't think anyone would take it. I'd have to review the rules. I actually can't remember what happens if they DNF. But Aces to the inside of Robsu into turn 1. He makes the move. It's a lovely overtake from the Alpine driver. Last week's race winner. He's up into 8th place. And Robsu loses another position. Jackalacko tries to follow through again on the inside for turn 4, but he can't quite do it. And Rick rightly saying in the chat that the next fastest lap counts in that case. So, in that case, it belongs to Tier, I believe. So an extra boon for McLaren in the Constructors' battle. But, yeah, Extract leading by over 2 seconds. But, yeah, when I next hand over you to Jacko, I'll do some calculations for the Constructors as it stands too, so we know where we are with that. But Scott very deep there at that long left-hander, and Tier trying to make a move, but he can't quite do it. Scott in danger of losing DRS to Gary. Like you said, Daki, he just doesn't seem to have the pace on those hards that he had earlier this race, and even in qualifying as well. And Tier is going to be going for that opportunity. He knows how important every point is going to be in the Constructors' battle as they head down towards turn 1. Enchiladad getting past JB further up. It's a simple DRS pass. Can Tier make a move on Scott? He's using his ERS, but he's too far behind. He yields, and Scott stays ahead, and he's still just about behind Gary, but it was very close to losing DRS there. The gap, 3.5 seconds. Enchiladad will be feeling the pressure, but he's in a comfortable position right now.
Oh my goodness, his teammate Tier is searching for any kind of opportunity to sneak his way through on Scott, even trying to force the nose in there at turn 3. Sumo very, very close in behind as well, so he's going to have to be wary at McLaren on a very good note in terms of the point standings, but of course Ghost is working his way through that right now, so we'll hear on that very soon. Just over 7 laps to go. Extract leads comfortably in the race. Denko making up what could be a crucial move, sweeping past Alex G up into 12th position on the road, and Mercedes will need as many points from him as possible, so he moves up into what could be a very critical 12th place. We shall see. Gap 2.2, 2.3 for the race lead. Extract from Enchilada Dad now running in that second place. JB, I imagine, will take that back up as Lawrence out of the race, and another safety car, a fourth for the race, a full safety car. How is this going to affect the race situation? Lawrence stacking it into the wall. A disastrous end to this season. The drivers who were able to come in will come in. And I imagine put fresh soft tyres on and charge at the rest of the runners out there on the track, who will now circulate out there with, I imagine, plenty on their mind. You'd think for the race leaders. Well, I don't know what the strategy is going to be for these guys, to be honest, but fresh softs, Cavalis, Denko, Alex G and Drogon, and I imagine Avenir as well. When he does eventually come back across, he does already have fresh softs on, I imagine, after a wing fix. Extract leading the field around now. These guys on older tyres. We'll see what the likes of Robso, Jacko, what kind of strategy they're going to opt for, because we've got a big tyre differential between those at the front and those at the back now.
Oh, decisions for those drivers at the front, especially Extract. What do you do? If you pit, no one else does. He's all the way down to 10th with just maybe 4 or 5 laps to make up those positions. If anyone's capable of doing it, it is him, but I mean, surely he comes in. It would be such a mistake not to, but he's so reliant on what everyone behind him does. Enchilada will be gutted with the safety car as well. He was in such a comfortable position. All of the top 3 into the pit lane. What about Gary? Gary stays out. He's going to lead this race. Scott, Tia, and Sumo all staying out. Aces as well. Robsu also staying out on track. JB comes in for the fresh softs. I'm surprised of anyone who I thought was going to come in. It would have been, or stay out, it would have been JB, but no, he's in too. And look at this, Jackalacco also in for softs, and we have the top 4 in the championship, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th in this race. Oh my goodness me. What an ending we have to this race. It was looking like Ench was cruising to the championship win, but suddenly everything has flipped on its head, and we are going to get a chaotic ending to this championship finale. Please, I am begging you guys, do not let it end in tragedy, please.
My goodness, the way that Jackalacco's championship hopes have just flicked back on all of a sudden. Look at this. He is going to be staring down. Of course, remember, he came into this race just 2 points behind Enchilada Dad, and now sits just 2 positions behind on track in a race where he has been nowhere for virtually the entire evening. So Jackalacco, what an opportunity this is, and what drama does await us, because you have 6 drivers out front on significantly older, slower tyres. Extract, Enchilada Dad, JB and Jackalacco, they are all going to have to try and find their way through amongst all the chaos, and oh, that could mean anything. Anything can still happen. The pressure on Enchilada Dad must be mounting at this stage, because if he tries to play it defensive, he will get punished. If he goes too aggressive, he will lose out. So Ench now, after looking like he was cruising to a championship, as you said, now has to do everything right, because my goodness, yeah, the pressure on this man has just been turned up to 11.
I am making sure to have my permutations in front of me, because this is going to go right to the wire. But and talking of the constructors as well, before this happened, Mercedes were cruising to the constructors title. They were going to lose points to the McLarens, and I think to the V-Carbs too, but it wasn't going to be enough. They would only lose about 2, 3, 4 points, and it's a double-digit margin. Only just a double-digit margin, but it is. But now, if they finish in this order, they won't, by the way, but if they did, this would be extremely close all of a sudden. It would be 14 points to Tier, 8 points to Ench, so it would be 22 points to McLaren, but it would be 9 points to X-Trek and 4 to Denko, 13 points to Mercedes. As it stands, the Mercedes outfit would win the title, but it would only be by, I believe 4 points. 3 or 4 points. It is so close, and I'm not going to bother doing the constructors' calculations until the end of this race now, Dake, because too much can change now. Safety car in this lap. Here we go. 4 laps of green flag racing to decide this championship.
And now it is Gary, somehow leading the way, running very fast, it must be said, and getting things underway. Scott reacts very well to that. Ace is challenging Sumo, and Sumo as well looking at Tyr as they barrel down into the first corner for the 4th to last time in the race. Scott defending Tyr. Tyr forced right out, and Aces slips right through into P2. My goodness, opportunistic from the Alpine. He squeezes Scott. Scott runs into him at turn 3, and the Alpines coming to blows here on the safety car restart into the wall. Scott out of turn 3 and out of contention, and backwards is Tyr, and another safety car. Tyr and X-Trek must have come together. Tyr's been given a penalty. This must be the last lap where a safety car can actually be brought out. X-Trek managed to slip in front of Robsu and all that chaos, so he does have a car between himself and the other contenders. What on earth has happened? We've had 5, yes, count them, 5 safety cars in this race. And I can only imagine, well, the safety car, I believe, has to come in at the end of lap 34. I don't think you can just have 1 lap shootout, so it's going to be an extraordinarily short safety car restart and then a 2-lap shootout to end the season. This is extraordinary.
I didn't think this was even possible to have 5 safety cars in a race on this game, but it's happened. And Gary's going to continue to lead the way from Aces now in P2. Tyr all the way down to 14th. Absolutely devastating for him. Scott's got no front wing as well. And, well, disaster for those 2 drivers. They'll both have to come in for some fresh softs and just to give it all they can. But now suddenly Mercedes are back in the driving seat. As it stands, they would now comfortably win the constructors title. I think that's maybe a retirement for Scott. Yeah, it is, with just 2 laps to go. Yeah, it's wow. Mercedes looking like they're going to win constructors again, but we're going to have 2 laps of green flag racing. X-Trek still in contention here. If he wins this race, Enchiladad needs P4, otherwise he will lose the title. JB there as well, and Jacko just 2 places behind him too. This is going to be so close. Any of the 3 could still win it. I think JB's chances are pretty much gone, unless, I mean, it's a meteor falls on the circuit. Yeah, I do think it's Ench, Jacko and X-Trek now are your main 3 protagonists, as we expected them to be. The safety car in this lap here, I don't think is going to have time to rejoin the rest of the pack. So I think McLaren's Constructors' title hopes are over. VCARB have to hope for a disaster for Mercedes. And Gary's going to lead us off again for lap 35 of 36. 2-lap shootout to decide the Tier 2 title.
This is extraordinary. And by the way, Aces in P2 has somehow left his overtake button on and is actually still very low on battery. So I'm very unsure as to how that's happened, but he's at a disadvantage immediately, and Gary hesitating, blipping that throttle pedal, and finally does get away. X-Trek with a brilliant restart challenging Sumo, but has to back off, and now Robsu sweeping around the outside. X-Trek lunges to try and counter, and Ace is trying to cover Sumo up in front. X-Trek is going to try and reclaim that position from Robsu, and does so into 4th position, but I think he was just maybe a little JB too fast on the restart as JB into the wall, and I think that's the championship completely gone for the VCARB, and I imagine as well further along, but we just continue on with Gary leading Aces, leading Sumo, leading X-Trek at the moment. Ench is still fine, but how well these last lap and a half unfold. It is Gary leading from Aces, from Sumo, from X-Trek. X-Trek will have all the speed in the world to try and use, and Enchilada at the moment is bottled up behind Robsu, looking this way and that way, trying to find a way through. So X-Trek does have that buffer. Enchilada tries to draw alongside, and Jacko tries to take advantage. Jacko Lacko, what a move this could be. Enchilada does not want to yield, and 1 and 2 in the championship go to battle. Round the outside, Jacko Lacko out onto the curb though. Enchilada with a better exit and holds on to P6. That could be so important. He fends off Jackalacko, but there's more to come. 1 lap to go in this season. Gary, Aces, Sumo, X-Reg, everyone in a lane. Who's going to win this championship? It's still up in the air, Ghost.
Yeah, here comes X-Trek to the outside of Sumo, but Sumo covers him off, and X-Trek has to remain in P4. No move for Jackalacko into turn 1. Enchiladad still remains in P6. He's doing just enough. Tier sets the fastest lap, but Jacko sends it down the inside of Enchiladad through turn 4. He gets it done, does Jackalacko, and he's looking maybe to try and do this. He needs 2 more positions if he wants to win this title. It could be happening. Just half a lap to go. Can he do this? He's surely going to send one to the inside of Robsu here. He does, but Robsu covers him off. There's no way through for Jacko. X-Trek up
Aces
to
off.
3 aces round in the background. He's all the way down. Gary leads this race. Surely he's not going to get his first.
Oh,
Jacko round. Oh no. Right at the end, and Enchilada on the inside of Cavalis. Oh, he's gone round as well! Oh my goodness me! X-Trek looking like he's going to win this championship as they head to the last 2 corners of this race. Gary leads the way through the final corner. Gary wins the Zandvoort Grand Prix. Sumo just behind. X-Trek P3. Where's Enchiladad? He's down in P10. I need to calculate things, but I believe X-Trek is your Tier 2 champion. It's going to be so close. I need to calculate this, Stacker. I'm not sure who's won.
I'm almost entirely certain that X-Rec has taken away this championship, but again we will wait and make all of those calculations. Who has got the fastest lap? Tier has the fastest lap, as we might have thought, and yes, I'm not ready to declare it, but I'm almost certain that X-Rec has taken the championship in the most dramatic fashion.
Daka, be less certain.
Oh.
Enchiladad is the Tier 2 champion, pending stewards of course, but as it stands, he is Tier 2 champion by 1 point. He has gained 6 points for finishing P10. X-Trek will gain 14 for finishing P3. That is an 8-point differential. The gap was 9 coming into this between the two of them. As it stands, Enchiladad is champion, but I mean, it would be a brave person to declare it with all the stewards results that could be happening. I have no idea how stewards are going to shape things up, whether Gary or Sumo get a penalty in this one and promote X-Trek up. All he would need is 1 more position, but if Ench gets pushed up as well, who knows what might happen. But it's Gary who sensationally, from 15th on the grid, wins the Dutch Grand Prix in Tier 2. I mean, we've been focused on the championship, but what a drive from Gary. He will be absolutely buzzing. Sumo, 2nd place again. He'll be absolutely gutted. And then X-Trek in P3. Robsu, Cavalis in the top 5. Great result for him. Denko P6. With Drogon P7, Alex P8, Avenir up in P9, Enchilada finishes 10th with Aces 11th, Jacko, Tier, JB and Scott, the rest of the finishers with Lawrence, Tricker and Cockpit Racer retiring from this race. And, well, Daka, one thing I can say for sure, no matter what happens in Stewards, Mercedes are definitely Constructors champions, as I'm 99.9% certain. There's no way Stewards will affect them enough to lose them the Constructors title. So that's for sure. The drivers up in the air, but as it stands, it's Enchiladad.
Yes, I've also done my own look at it, and I can verify that. My apologies for calling that wrong, by the way. I did not actually see where Edge... I was very surprised at how little time he actually lost after going around. So he ends up actually getting a very solid position out on track, relatively speaking. Wow. That was absolutely stunning. It may have come down to that run to the lane. X-Trek, you'd have to say, if there was one more lap, you know, he was absolutely laning up those two out in front. But yes, I guess I'm with you on that. We should just hang off maybe for the moment, because that was a race quite unlike any other. There was so much carnage out there on track. I can't say I saw anything obvious on the part of the main championship contenders, but yes, I think we will just wait and see. But yeah, that's going to take a long time to get out of the memory. I think that race, it may live on forever because wow, what a dramatic finale. I'm lost for words.
Oh my goodness me. Sumo in the chat is saying Gary might get a penalty. So that would push Xtrek up a position and Xtrek would be champion if that happened. But I'm gonna invite, of course, the podium finishers to an interview. But I'm also gonna say I'm going to invite Enchilada as well, so we can have a chat to him. And I mean, let's get their comments. Denko saying it was a sweaty damn race. I'm not surprised. It's sweaty in the commentary box as well, Denko. And I mean, goodness gracious me, you couldn't have asked for a more dramatic final lap in this championship, but that is what we've gotten. Wow.
So we'll wait for those drivers to bring themselves back in. Yeah, my mind is a little bit everywhere right now. Some first race in APP for me, I think, to be covering. Yeah, quite an incredible championship finale. But yeah, we'll get those guys in and we'll get talking because I imagine those guys also have plenty to say, as does just about everyone in the league after what we've just witnessed.
Absolutely. I've just invited our podium finishers plus Ench to the party. Wow. I mean, Gary, we've got another mention to Gary, whether he gets a penalty or not. A simply incredible drive for a driver who's been towards the back of Tier 1 since joining APP. Gave him a go in Tier 2. Last week he was languishing at the back in Belgium as well. And then he comes to Zandvoort this week, qualifies all the way down, far down the grid. And he comes in to win the race after all of that carnage in the finale. I mean, Jack Alaco also, a huge mention to him. I mean, it wasn't his finest race by any means. He binned it himself, I think, at least twice, and then came into the final few laps suddenly with a chance revitalized, and he tried so hard to make good on it. He got past Enchilada sensationally. He needed 2 more positions, and then on the final lap it all goes wrong. It goes wrong for Ench as well, but somehow it all works out. We've got Sumo joining, but I'm just going to ping Gary and Ench as well to make sure they've seen the invite. I mean, Daka, what is there to say?
Well, everything, and that's why I'm struggling to find the words, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I think I'm still collecting my thoughts after what we've just seen. I mean, it was looking with just about 7 laps to go that this championship may have been heading to a rather dire conclusion, but in the end, everything was thrown right up in the air at the end of the race. I mean, 5 safety cars is a pretty extraordinary number, and in the end, a 2-lap shootout. Cars going spearing off on that final lap in critical fashion, as we'll get into later in these interviews, I imagine. And yeah, just a finale quite unlike any other. That was absolutely incredible to witness.
It really, really was. Yeah, I mean, you chose a good race for your first APP commentary, that's for sure. Well, I don't know if Gary is joining us, so we'll see about that. But we'll start off by speaking to Sumo. Well, it's P2 again, Sumo. I know you said Gary might be getting a penalty. If he does, then Xtrek could potentially be champion, or would potentially be champion, assuming no other penalties elsewhere. But that's in your hands regardless. But what do you think of that? What a finale it was. I mean, everyone had a topsy-turvy race, I think, but you did as well. How are you feeling right now?
I think that wins on the cards. Personally, there was two very dodgy safety car restarts at the end of the race, which I will be putting into the tickets system later. Um, I don't care who's champion. I want that win. I think I deserved it today after that hell of a drive. I don't know what you were smoking when you put Netherlands on the calendar, Ghost, but uh,
Well, I mean, absolutely, that is how it should be. You shouldn't care who the champion is. But yeah, we'll see how everything shakes out. I'm sure there'll be plenty of reports either way. But I mean, it was a sensational ending to the race. I mean, we had 5 safety cars, which I don't think was possible on this game, but clearly it is. And a lot of them were for quite frivolous incidents, I will say. But on your end, I mean, how did you feel towards the end of that race? Like, was there any opportunity to make a move on Gary, or were you playing it patient, thinking he would get a penalty?
I think it all came down to that penultimate corner, but I just was a little bit too slow. I didn't carry the momentum through it as best as I could have, and he just got away with it. I think I nearly lost it at one point as well. I was more focused on keeping Extract behind me, to be honest, um, because I thought I might just get Gary, but it was, nip and tuck really toward the line, and I needed that exit and I didn't get it. So, but it's all right. I think it's Jack. Jack's one of the stewards. I'll slip him a 20 and then call it a day.
Oh dear. I'm also actually going to invite Denko to this party as constructors champion as well, so I'll get him in too. But yeah, I mean, whatever happens. Oh wait, of course, Denko we would need to do through Discord, so we'll see about that. But yeah, I mean, regardless of whether you get the win or not, a fantastic drive, Sumo. Another one this season. Do you think next season could be your season to finally win the Tier 2 title? I mean, you came into the season thinking you would have a shot at it. It didn't quite turn out that way in the end. But regardless, next season now is coming up in just 2 weeks. Do you think you've got what it takes now?
I mean, a week break, I can keep that momentum going. I think. I started this season off like mere meters from a win, so I think, and I've ended the season in the exact same way as well, which is the perfect way to go on to another one. I definitely think I can. It's going to be a hard fought championship though next season, and it's going to be furious with just 8 rounds so far at the very least.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again, Sumo. A fantastic drive to end off a great season for you. Daka, do you have any questions for our P2 finisher?
Yeah, just also because this end of the season is a time for looking forward, but also a time for reflecting. So, Sumo, just looking at your results throughout this season and some of the events that transpired, do you potentially look at this season as one where there were a lot of what ifs and maybes, and do you think maybe this season could have been more than it was?
Oh, 100%. I think I said in Lawrence's little interview bit this morning that last season for me was probably like I think I said an 8 or 7 out of 10. Just because I met my target, which was to finish P5 in the drivers' championship, and I did that. And I said if I could manage to clinch enough points to finish P5 again, then I think it's one score below that previous season. So I don't think there was much improvement because I still made a lot of mistakes. We all know what happened in Mexico. I don't need to go over that too much. And I think, I just need to. I think there's a few things I need to work on if I'm going to win a championship. I think I've lost now like 2 races by like minimal margins, and I don't think that's acceptable for somebody going for a championship. But if I can at least finish top 5 and podiums each and every race, which is where I should be finishing, then I think I've got the consistency to win a championship.
Well, congratulations again, Sumo. Best of luck for next season, but you're in fantastic form right now. So I think it would be a fool to bet against you for next season at this stage.
Pole position, baby! Give me those points. Now I've got to drag it back for you. I'm coming for you, Ghost.
Oh dear. All right. Well, moving on then to our provisional drivers' champion of Tier 2. If Gary gets a penalty, then Xtrek is champion by 1 point. But that is assuming there aren't more penalties further down the grid that would promote you as well, Ench. So it's really up in the air, this one. I believe you win on countback regardless. So if Xtrek got pushed up a position and you got pushed up a position, then you would be champion on countback, which would be the second time that's ever happened.
I'm 1 point ahead now, am I?
Yes, right now you're 1 point ahead.
Okay, but then won't I be countback if Gary gets a penalty? I don't know if I'm within 5 seconds. Probably not, actually.
If Gary gets the penalty, Xtrek will go up to P2, and you beat him on countback because you have more P1s. So
okay, so I'm fine.
Yes, you're fine.
Okay.
As long as you get pushed up another position.
Okay.
But yeah, it's
I'm not sure. Actually, I probably won't be within 5.
It's totally up in the air. It really is.
Okay.
But I mean, provisionally at the moment, you are Tier 2 champion. I mean, overall, we'll talk about your season, but first of all, the race. It looked as if before those last 5 or 6 laps, it looked as if you were cruising to the title, just swapping places with JB, happily ahead of everyone else further behind, and just sitting there doing what you needed to do. Then the safety car came out. Tell us what was running through your head.
I was going to copy whatever Xtrek did no matter what. I didn't really think it would be that good, but I didn't want any of these safety cars to come out. Maybe the first one, but the rest just were very annoying. But then, especially after, I think the third one when we had that gap, and I think the tires were just starting to get better, and I maybe could have caught. Because I think if I'd caught Xtrek and won, in the position we were in with Tier 7, it would have been enough for both championships, but that obviously didn't happen in the end.
Yeah.
But I think I can report whoever took me out in the last lap to get one more place anyway.
That's also true.
And yeah,
you know, with championships on the line, it's the stewards have the power to inflict harsher penalties for extra impact of particular incidents. So, you know, we'll see. But I mean, regardless, Xtrak's in the chat saying congratulations as well, but he's also saying how close it is. And I mean, we couldn't have asked for a more exciting ending. When that incident did happen on the final lap, I mean, you must have been gutted, but also you got back on track so fast. Daka was shocked at how quickly you got back on track and got going again. So was it just pure adrenaline?
Probably. I don't really know. Yeah, I just looked up and saw 10th, and I remembered Xtrek was 3rd, so I had the numbers down already, so I knew that I would win with that, but I knew he was right behind 2nd place, so I was just hoping to hit him on the line.
Yeah, I mean, what a stressful race it must have been, especially those last few laps. I mean,
yeah,
obviously,
I wish I just stayed out.
Yeah, quite possibly. But you couldn't foresee the second safety car, of course, no one did.
The 6th, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, in terms of 2 seasons ago, because obviously it was a bit of deja vu, really, wasn't it? Because it was you and Xtrek right down to the wire, final lap shenanigans, and you know it's all come down to stewards again. you must be thinking deja vu, but at the moment it's the opposite way round. But I mean, were you thinking of the similarities to season 12 on those last few laps at all?
Not really, because as far as I was aware, everything stayed clean until the very, very end.
Yeah.
And it was cleaner than last time, definitely. 'Cause I don't know what happened with the safety car restarts, and the only incident I really saw was my one, so it didn't feel quite the same.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I mean, for now, congratulations on bagging your first Tier 2 title. Mercedes, I can confirm, are Constructors' champions. Yeah, we'll see what happens in Stewards. We'll try and get that sorted as quickly as possible so you're not in suspense for too long.
Okay.
But yeah, many congratulations. What a season it's been for you. 3 wins on the bounce midway through got you straight back in the title fight after the devastation of Bahrain. And, well, you know, it's not quite confirmed yet, but it must feel so relieving to have that season be finally over.
Yeah. I feel like I have to be very unlucky to not win it from here as well. I don't want to get my hopes too up, but yeah.
Well, many congratulations. Daka, do you have any questions for our provisional Tier 2 champion?
I don't think so, Ghost. I think that was a fairly all-encompassing interview, so... no, I don't... Hey, you're too good at your job, but no, I don't think I have much more to say.
I mean, the only real other thing to ask is about next season. Obviously, 2 weeks' time. As it stands, it's going to be an 8-race season. It depends when F125 releases. Well, whatever happens with this race, you must be feeling in good stead to either defend your driver's title into next season or, you know, try to go for it again. How are you feeling into the last season of F124?
Based on my last few results, maybe not. But, because, especially in like the last few rounds, I don't think I was slower. I think people just improved more, because I wasn't really getting close to pole in the last few races or anything, so I might need to step up.
Well, you know, Sumo's going to be a real threat, I think.
Yeah.
X-Trek, obviously always there. Jacko, I'm sure, will be there. JB too. I mean, there's so many drivers. Aces has been on a resurgence as well, despite that incident on the final lap for him too. Yeah, congratulations again, Enchilada. It's great to speak to you, and best of luck for next season, whatever happens in the Stewards.
Thanks.
Well, Daka, I mean, what more is there to say after that?
It is difficult to find the words. It's been an emotional roller coaster all night for us. I can't imagine what we were seeing from all of the drivers with both championships hanging in the balance. I mean, with half a lap to go, there were still 3 drivers that could have walked away from this race as champion, and that is not something that you're going to see very, very often. So I think we're very lucky to have witnessed that, and I think everyone's very lucky to have been involved in what's transpired out there on track. So all I can say is I'm very grateful to have been here to cover what was a gripping season finale.
I'm very grateful you were here as well. I don't think my voice would have survived. The start of the race especially, I was running out of breath because my chest was so tight with the tension. So I was running out of breath with speaking. I was glad to hand over to you. Yeah, I mean, we've even got Birmingham City Council in the chat saying it was a great race. So, you know, we've got people from all over the place to watch this finale, and fittingly as well, what a finale it was. I think this will go down as one of the most exciting finales in Tier 2, even APP history. So thank you so much to all of the drivers, because you guys all make this league what it is, and you know, one of the best atmospheres around in league racing in APP. I can attest very much to that. I'm sure the drivers will too. What a season it's been. What a fantastic race. Thank you to everyone who's watched a race as well over the course of this whole season. Everyone who's, giving me a view, giving me a like or a subscribe. Thank you so much. I will be covering next season just the same in 2 weeks' time. But yes, for now, we will be having a 1-week break before season 15 starts up. So no racing next week. We'll be straight back into it on the Tuesday after. Wow. Thank you so much, Daka, for joining me as well for this finale. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you in the box for this. Well, yeah, it couldn't ask for a better race to have your first dab in the comms box with me for APP, at least.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be difficult to top. Just as a little note from a self-advertising point of view, you can also catch me on Sunday because I'll be covering the Elite finale, so make sure to be tuning in for that as well. The Championship week in APPF1. It's going to be drama all across the board, so make sure to tune in for that one for the Elite season coming to its conclusion as well.
100% right, and you'll catch Daka on track for the Tier 1 finale.
Oh, don't tune in for that.
Hopefully. This Friday as well. All three
He's
divisions...
known as Dake in that one.
All 3 divisions this season going right down to the finale and right down to the wire. Single digit, in fact, less than 5-point gaps between the top 2 in all 3 divisions going into the finale. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of the league. So I tune in all week. Iron Ghost will be taking you through the race on Friday for the Tier 1 finale. That's going to be me, Finley, and Speed are going to be your championship protagonists for that one. And then for Elite on Sunday, please go and check out Daka's channel. The link will be posted in the Discord as always. Yeah, just that'll be Red Flame Joe, Finley, myself, and Lancer in the battle for that one, but mainly Red Flame Joe and Finley going for that title. So keep an eye out. Make sure you catch the races this week. And thank you all so much. Have a lovely rest of your week. And Daka, do you have anything more to say before we sign off?
Roll on the rest of the weekend. After that, roll on next season. That is all I have to say for that. There is so much to reflect on, so much to look forward to. So yeah, can't wait for the future. Let's get it moving on. But for now, we will close the book on Tier 2 for this season.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the Tier 2 season opener for the next season, and see you on Sunday on Daka's channel and on Friday on Iron Ghost's channel for the other 2 championship finales. Absolutely thrilling week of APP racing to come, and also the start of F1. I mean, what a week for racing overall. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.